over these many years, it's often been affirmed that there is no teaching here. The many and often disparate stories that are told from many different persuasions have the purpose of breaking down our conditioned thinking of whatever subject it might be at the moment, to bring the possibility that our own knowing and our experience from that knowing can arise. But over the last several weeks, several evocative statements have been made. And the first one is that our destination is not nirvana or enlightenment or God realization or cosmic consciousness. Our destination is an absence of illusion. And the other statement that's been made is that love is the greatest illusion of all. So looking for the moment at love clinically with these various stories, recognizing that they are for the purpose of breaking down our conditioned thinking. Let's see what is evoked from several old Tibetan stories. But first of all, there's a personal experience of love. And one of the most momentous moments was when a statement was made to the now deceased husband. It was shattering for him when it was said to him, "The love is for everyone." And there is also that strange opposite to it, because I could state even at that time that I loved Divine Mother so much. If she had have said to me, "Go and jump off a cliff," I would have done so without a second thought. The prayer that she said at the beginning of every one of her meditations is, "Thou art the Mother, Thou art the Father, Thou art friend and companion, Thou art knowledge and wealth, Thou art all in all." And that's what she represented to me. So I had loved her totally, often wondering what I could do to show her how much I loved her. Love. First there's that story about the old Tibetan woman who had loving devotion to the Buddha for all of her life. And it so happened that her son would often travel across the mountains of Tibet to India to ply his trade. And each time he went on this journey, his mother would say to him, "When you go to Bodh Gaya, bring me back a relic of the Buddha." But each time he came back, he had forgotten. But there was one occasion when, departing as he was for another trade journey, she said to him, "If you don't bring me back a relic from the Buddha, I'm going to kill myself in front of you." So her son went off on his trading mission, but he had almost reached home when he suddenly remembered that he had not done what his mother had requested. But he knew that she meant what she said when she said that she would kill herself in front of him if she didn't bring back that relic. But it so happened that as he was riding on the road, he noticed the carcass of an old dead dog. So descending from his horse, he went over and extracted one of the teeth from the dog. Then he very carefully wrapped it in silk. And when he came back to his mother's house, he handed it to her, saying that this indeed was a relic from the Buddha from Bodh Gaya. So the old woman took this tooth and put it on her altar. And every day in her prayers, with her loving devotion to the Buddha, she worshipped this tooth as a representation of what the Buddha was for her. And after a while, it was noticed that there was a bright, shining light coming out of that tooth. And people found that when they came in front of that altar and were touched by this light, that healing took place. All their lives and their problems disappeared. But then, when the old woman passed away, everyone saw the great, fully colored rainbow that rested over the house, indicating that the passing of a great and elevated soul. The second story is about that great Tibetan Lama called Patrol Rinpoche. Now, Patrol Rinpoche was a wandering mendicant, but there was an occasion when he was called back to the capital city to preside, to conduct a great initiation ritual. But he was a far distant away, and there was a long journey to make to take him back to the Potala palace. But on his way, he happened to meet a recently widowed woman and her 2 children. So when asking her where was she traveling, the answer was that since she was now a widow and needed to take care of her 2 children, and she'd heard that there was a big festival happening in the capital, that she was going that way, so that she thought perhaps she could beg and provide for herself and her children. So Patrol Rinpoche, indicating that he was going in the same direction, suggested that they travel together. And so, on that journey, Patrol Rinpoche tenderly took care of the woman and her children, taking the children into his breast under his warm, fur-filled jacket at night, making sure that they had the greatest share of whatever it was in alms that was given to them at the various places they stopped. The journey was long, but the woman felt safe and peaceful with this man, and almost at their journey's end, she even suggested to him that they'd grown so close together that perhaps they could marry. But Patrol Rinpoche had just smiled gently at her. But as they came to the outskirts of the great capital of Lhasa, Patrol Rinpoche said to the woman, "I must leave you here, but we will meet again." So he left to make his way to the great Potala palace, where the preparations for this initiation were taking place. Many gifts were brought by those people who were coming together and participating in that initiation. But to the surprise of the monks, and different from what had happened before, Patrol Rinpoche indicated that the gifts were not to be dispensed to all those who came in need, but to be kept aside. But as the great day arrived and the masses of people gathered, the woman and her children gathered that great throng, keeping on the outskirts as she felt not worthy and somewhat of an outcast, now a beggar with no husband. But to her great surprise, her great shock, when it was her time to come before the great Lama, now dressed in robes with a conical hat on his head, and in a moment of recognition realized that this was the humble man who had accompanied her on her journey. She was ashamed and abashed, but after the ceremony, the great Patrol Rinpoche sought her out and took her aside and gave to her all the gifts that had been gathered by those who had come, so that she was taken care of, as were her children, in the days to come. Love. What for you is the difference between these two stories? One pointed love and devotion to a chosen ideal, and that which was demonstrated by the great Lama. What say you? What is the difference?